Hello, my friends, and welcome to the review corner, this little corner in my living room. So today we are going to be talking about Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, Book 1, The Final Empire. This is a reread for me. I read this for the first time in 2018, and my 2018 review on Goodreads is, if you're ever wondering, yes, this book lives up to the hype, and yes, it is amazing. So going through this reread, I definitely wanted to see whether or not I still agreed with past Joe on my previous assumptions, assertions, whatever you want to call them. And for the most part, I did, but I do have a couple of things that I care about now that I don't think I really cared about back then, and I want to talk about those things with you. So back in 2018, this was my first introduction to a more adult type of fantasy story. I know that a lot of people say that this series is a great bridge book between YA and adult high fantasy, and I would 100% agree, but I do think that it is a great bridge book or a great beginner fantasy book for some very specific reasons. Everything that Sanderson builds within the story, the world and the magic system, are incredibly intriguing. The magic system is one of my favorites that I've ever read, but I do think that the actual building of these things is very clunky and heavy-handed. Now, these portions of the book are not the majority of the book, but they are the majority of the world building and the magic building itself. We have so many instances where we just kind of sit down with Vin as she is asking very convenient questions to someone that knows more about the magic or more about the world, and this other person will just pretty much spill their guts in big blocky paragraphs and telling Vin everything that she needs to know of exactly how everything works. This happened quite a few times, and I found myself like just kind of rolling my eyes and doing really big sighs of contempt because I don't like this world building. I don't like this info dumpy style, and normally I'm not somebody who notices the info dump. Like I can get down with a good info dump. I normally don't care. And to take that a step further, normally I don't even notice the info dump, okay? But in this book, I noticed it, and I didn't like it. I don't like for every little detail of the world and the magic to be explained to me just right in my face in this big ass paragraph. I like to learn things periodically as we move throughout the world in a way that feels natural and not like I'm just sitting in a classroom somewhere and having some teacher talk at me. That's kind of how it felt. It felt like I was sitting and just having somebody spell out everything about the world, right? Like I said before, the world and the magic are very fascinating. They're very strong. I just don't like learning about those things in this specific way. Now, with the magic system comes the actual use of the magic system. Now, while there were a couple of scenes that were really well written, hi, Mr. Bernard, say hi to the people. Some of the action scenes that Brandon Sanderson writes in this are insanely clear and they're incredibly cool, but they're not the majority of them, and I found myself kind of confused as to what was going on in the majority of these battle scenes. I just knew that somehow we had gotten from point A to point B and there's dead people behind us. So there was a real lack of battle clarity there, and I know that in 2018 I was not somebody who cared about that stuff. I was just kind of like along for the ride, like we're going, and I really don't care how we got there, but I know that we got there, you know what I mean? But now I care. Now I actually want to know what's going on in these battles. I want to be able to understand exactly where all the parts and pieces are, you know what I mean? And that was just not there. It was not there. Everything was kind of like a blurry mess. And again, there were some really incredibly well written, very clear battle scenes in this book, but some of them were just real blurry. They were real blurry, and I got real confused real quick. Character-wise, I love the crew that we're introduced to. Obviously, we get the most time with Kelsier and Vin. Kelsier is a very interesting character for me. I really love the way that he's built as this intensely flawed man, but also extremely enigmatic and just like a powerhouse in this world. He's someone who's willing to search for the joy, and he searches for the friendships and the kindness in the world, and he also wants to make the world a better place, and he's super freaking cool, okay? He's just so cool. And Vin is another interesting character for me in a different kind of way. There are certain aspects about Vin that I really like, and then there are other aspects about Vin that I found kind of inconsistent throughout the story. The first half of the book, she's a street urchin, she's super paranoid, she won't even let anyone prepare her food for her, and then towards the latter half, she's kind of becomes a really gullible person, like just really gullible, and just makes the dumbest decisions. It's like she goes from one extreme to the other within the span of like 100 pages. And I know that it was supposed to be a little bit more of a smooth transition as she goes from being alone on the street to finding her way with Kelsier and the crew and learning to trust and learning to open herself up. But it kind of went from point A to point B super quickly, and I wanted a little bit more growth. I wanted to see how she got there a little bit further, I guess. Now, the world of the Final Empire is incredibly strong. The socio-political structure of the city is just incredibly fascinating to me. We have this classic kind of class structure that we have seen in other fantasy stories. We've seen it in real life. We recognize it. We know what it is. But in this, it's interesting to me because not only is it kind of like a theocracy, but we have a physical manifestation of a god as our leader. And the religion that worships this said god, the Lord Ruler, is the only religion in this world. So whatever the Lord Ruler says goes. So if the Lord Ruler, aka God, what if the god of this religion, the savior of the world, says that these people are at the bottom? How are they supposed to rise up? The answer is that they can't. This is so fascinating to me because not only are they kept at the bottom out of sheer force, they're kept at the bottom because of this intense manipulation that is 1,000 years in the making. And this manipulation is based on the word of one dude, the Lord Ruler at the top. And the Lord Ruler is the person that dictates every inch of society. He dictates the fashion. He dictates who's discriminated against and who's not. He dictates what the religion is in the world. He influences money. He influences power. He controls this entire civilization and each one of the classes in a very specific way. And I just find it so fascinating. And I love some religious corruption. Okay, you guys know I love religious corruption. That is just my thing. It's incredible. I love it. So overall, this book is a great place to start if you are a beginner to fantasy, if you're wanting to move more towards the adult high fantasy genre. This is a fantastic place to start, and I also think it's worth a read if you are well into the genre. I definitely do think that there is some info dumping and some clunky world building happening, but the world and the magic that Brandon Sanderson built is so incredibly fascinating. Even if the delivery is not on par, at least the content is. And even if the battle scenes are a little bit blurry, that's okay. That's okay. I got the point, I guess. But I ended up giving Mistborn, The Final Empire 3.5 stars, and I cannot wait to continue on with my reread of this series. Let me know down below if you guys have read this book. What did you think about it? Do you agree with some of the things that I said? Do you disagree with some of the things I said? Let me know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to join the NotSoAverageJo army. We would love to have you here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next time.